Up next on The Bottom Line, a community conversation on racial equity and social justice.
Without respecting one another, we can never accomplish.
Montgomery County officials want you to know about the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning and a new law that's designed to protect you.
We were frankly surprised once we put these Sentry detectors on how many calls were actually carbon monoxide related.
And life in the fast lane. We'll introduce you to a Montgomery County resident with the world's largest Hot Wheels collection.
We're playing with Hot Wheels, even though I'm 57. You're always a kid. Let's go.
Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Susan Kenedy. County leaders have officially kicked off a racial equity and social justice campaign designed to address disparities across the board. The movement kicked off with a press conference followed by a community conversation. The crowd exceeded all expectations as it was standing room only at the Silver Spring Civic Building for the county's first community conversation on racial equity and social justice.
Through a lot of research, we have, of course, understood that a lot of these disparities are the result of structural policies that have led us to this point.
And I thank the council members who supported this. The fact that you have the entire council here says something about the commitment of the council to get this right.
More than 500 county residents came together to discuss the disparities that exist here in Montgomery County that prevent our ability for future prosperity. Attendees assembled in discussion groups that included council members and other community leaders.
Without respecting one another, we can never accomplish.
Discussion focused on changes that could be made to address the racial and ethnic inequities in our community. Each group then reported out key highlights of their conversation.
We want to see more affordable housing, more accountable policing.
I mean, we're all like-minded. We want to see social justice and equity. I think the problem is going to be is how do we tap into the members of the county who are not like-minded.
We'd also like to see more community level work, having the communities be engaged in getting involved in terms of the issues surrounding racial equity.
The conversation is the beginning of an effort by the council to develop a racial equity and social justice policy for Montgomery County government. And the successful kickoff of this campaign signals the passion of the community in being a part of this change.
Well, number one, I think it's obvious that this is a county where issues of race, equity, and social justice are front and center. We had really an engaged group here this evening. It was standing room only. And I think what I heard is that people have a lot on their minds and they want to be part of that process. And so it's wonderful. And I hope that they take this back into their networks and their neighborhoods and continue to have the conversation.
Well, the thing that struck me tonight is that, one, the crowd. You have a lot of people in this county that care. They may not know exactly what to do. They may not know all the history. They may be overwhelmed by the magnitude of the challenge and the problem, but they want to help. And that's heartening that we live in a community where that's the case. I think this is just the beginning of what's going to need to be a long process of digging deeper, having people understand what the disparities are, the origins of them, and then building public will to make some big changes.
The timeline for the initiative will continue to roll out throughout the spring and summer with the goal of passing legislation this fall. According to the National Centers for Disease Control, more than 400 people die each year from carbon monoxide poisoning. Exposure to this gas can result in permanent brain damage, and anyone can be at risk. But a new measure set to go into effect here in Montgomery County is designed to protect residents from this deadly gas.
But I think we both have carbon monoxide poisoning.
Carbon monoxide is the most common cause of death by poison in the United States. This odorless, colorless gas is a silent killer that claims more than 500 lives every year.
Usually we get called for flu-like symptoms. Person with nausea, dizziness, those key indications of carbon monoxide poisoning gets called in as someone who has the flu.
Montgomery County Fire Chief Scott Goldstein and Councilmember Craig Rice want the public to be educated about the dangers of carbon monoxide and how they can protect themselves from this deadly gas.
What we saw is that some of the deaths that happened here in Montgomery County have been with older homes and with older construction, and it's just been that people aren't aware of the fact that these new carbon monoxide alarms can give them an extra safety protection.
It's the care and upkeep of those types of appliances. Is it the care of the stove or the hot water heater or the dryer? Anything that's got a blue flame or an orange flame has a chance of producing carbon monoxide. And then it's the ventilation of that combustion product. Your flue, your chimney, be it a fireplace or the furnace, if that gets clogged, if that gets some type of obstruction or diversion, that can be leaking carbon monoxide into another part of the house.
Today, county firefighters have detectors on all of their medical bags.
A single gas detector for carbon monoxide.
If that device goes off, they know they are dealing with a carbon monoxide situation.
So when it starts chirping at us, we recognize that there is an emergency in that structure of a high CO level. We were frankly surprised once we put these Sentry detectors on how many calls were actually carbon monoxide related. In the years prior to that, it was actually the hospital that would contact us back and say,
"That's amazing.
This person has a high level of carbon monoxide in their blood," after advanced testing.
Beginning July 1st, a law introduced by Councilmember Rice and passed by the council will require that all 2-unit homes as well as single-family houses must have carbon monoxide alarms installed. County law already requires the devices for multifamily dwellings and new construction. Officials are mounting an education campaign to make sure residents understand the new law and how they can go about getting one of the alarms.
Carbon monoxide alarms are as progressive as smoke alarms are. They have 10-year batteries in them as well, so that they're just as user-friendly, or just as simple as plugging it into an outlet.
Having these alarms in place will actually ensure that folks will be able to understand what's happening in their house.
Appliances in the home that use natural gas, propane, or wood all have the potential to generate carbon monoxide. The alarms are available at hardware and home improvement stores. They should be installed outside of sleeping areas, and they can be mounted on walls or ceilings.
I mean, as we know that we have a very large and growing senior population here in Montgomery County, and so a lot of those folks have been aging in place in their homes that don't have the benefit of some of the hardwired features that a lot of our newer homes do.
They'll check your house.
And so we're encouraging all of our elderly residents. We're hoping that we're really going to be able to just make sure that we try and minimize the amount of loss of life that happens here in Montgomery County.
To find out more about what this new law requires, or if you have any other questions about carbon monoxide, you can call 311 for the county's Customer Service Center. The Hot Wheels brand celebrated its 50th anniversary last year. So to recognize that milestone, we caught up with a Montgomery County man who has amassed a collection of thousands of the tiny toys, which has earned him a place in the record books.
We're playing with Hot Wheels, even though I'm 57.
It's fair to say that Bruce Pascal has a one-track mind. This Potomac resident has been collecting Hot Wheels for the past 20 years, and during that time, he's amassed more than 7,000 pieces of Hot Wheels-related memorabilia.
I told you Heist Rider is the name in German. I found an original display from 1969, and it's been my life mission. They're so hard to find.
It all started with a call from his mother.
And in 1999, about a little 20 years ago, my mom called me up and she said, "We're cleaning out the house," and she handed me that box. And then I opened it up, and I was with a friend of mine, and he goes, "Oh, you got your own Hot Wheels. I'll give you $200 for them." I was like, "No." And then immediately I realized they have value. So I started doing some research, and I said, I want to become a collector. I am missing only one car away from making the complete Japanese collection. I didn't know it, but there's a number 51A. So if anybody out there in Montgomery County happens to have that in Maryland, please give me a call.
Within 3 weeks of getting his box of cars, he was full throttle in becoming a collector of the toys.
I've always collected something, and if you're going to collect anything, always try to get the best. You know, the rarest Ferrari, which I can't afford, the rarest painting, which I can't afford, the rarest baseball cards over $1 million, can't afford, the rarest Hot Wheel, I could afford it. What I decided to do is not just collect Hot Wheels, but research the history of the company, interview former employees, which I tracked down, ask them if they had anything remaining. And after these interviews, they would say, "I have stuff remaining, but you're probably not interested." I said, "Why?" "I just have the blueprints." I'm like, can I buy them? And then I just started discovering how much Hot Wheels affected Americana.
Today, Bruce Paschal has a 4,000 square foot playroom in Gaithersburg where he stores and displays his treasures.
We decided that it was time to take his small collection and move it out of the house because it was starting to creep into every kind of crevice in the house. I had no idea this was the plan. He doesn't do things in a small way. He does things in a really big way.
Though he has thousands of originals of these vintage toys,
so you see this right here?
There are other parts of his collection that are even more valuable.
So they made a call called the Cockney Cab. Looks like a British cab. This is the actual drawing, May 13th, 1969. Wow. That was the original sketch the artist made.
Paschal has handmade rare prototypes, advertising posters.
This was the actual poster at the gas station. 99.99% were thrown away. So I'm going to open up this box.
And a pre-production Volkswagen Beach Bomb surf bus in pink.
The world's most valuable Hot Wheel.
That's valued at $150,000.
The pink rear load beach bomb.
It looks brand new.
It's 50 years old. Matter of fact, I found a document. This was made February 15th, 1969. That's when the top was made, so it just had its 50th birthday.
Oh my gosh. Now let me ask, how many of these are there?
There are 2 pink ones known.
That's it?
I owned both of them at one time, and I sold the other one because it wasn't as good condition. This is like the prototype of the prototype, so I said, this is the one I'll keep.
And it's worth quite a bit of money?
It's definitely a 6-figure plus car.
But if you're not a collector, Hot Wheels are one of the few toys that are still a bargain. To this day, you can pick up one of these 2-inch cars without breaking the bank.
Today, 50 years later, you can still buy a Hot Wheel for about $1. Really? I bought 11 of them last night for $10, so it's still 90 cents. It's one of the only toys that kept the same price, except to keep the price, a little bit more plastic and less metal these days.
Besides the cars, Paschal's treasures include artwork by Otto Cooney, the famous Hot Wheels graphic designer. His work is proudly displayed throughout the warehouse.
And he had thousands of pieces of paper, and he sold me literally his entire estate.
When the artist died, his family invited Paschal to California to go through his belongings.
Here's an example of a printer's proof
of a package
of a slot car. All the artwork was done by Otto Cooney. Other collectors, like slot car collectors, would go crazy to find these kind of items. So I'm going to show you this picture right here. This picture, it means a lot to me. This is Ruth Handler and Elliot Handler. Elliot was the EL of Mattel.
He's also reached out to former Mattel employees to find out what gems they might have, and in doing so, the company realized Paschal's hobby could be an asset to them.
And I will tell you this, I have a great relationship with Mattel today.
Yeah.
They discovered after all their years, they were missing a tremendous amount of cars and items. So I've been working with Mattel over the years and doing various trades and acquisitions and searches for them so they can have a better archive.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, first of all, you get 2 Hot Wheels. Do you want to pick 2 Hot Wheels?
Paschal is more than happy to show off his cash, but does so by invitation only.
Well, you know what? To have a warehouse, you might as well use it, right? And to fill it up with kids and to see the excitement playing with Hot Wheels, this is why I did it.
I love that my kids love it. It's great. It's great to see them play with something without a screen in front of it.
Let it hereby be declared that today is the home of the world's largest Hot Wheels collection day.
And Council Vice President Sidney Katz stopped by to take it all in.
And best wishes for many years of success. It's proclaimed today and signed by me. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. I really
you.
appreciate this.
By day, Paschal is a commercial real estate agent, and he says it can be sometimes tough shifting gears between that and collecting.
My most difficult challenge in life right now is separating the two.
Balancing.
Is walking to work and doing nothing but real estate.
Right.
And then when I walk in my warehouse, doing nothing but Hot Wheels. Although I'm tempted during the daytime to watch that eBay auction.
But when he signs off on that last deal, he'll be free to put the pedal to the metal and keep collecting in high gear. This is something that I would imagine you'll carry through, you know, for the rest of your life.
I have a place to go. As my wife said when I retire, she's going to put me a briefcase in my hand, open the door, and throw me out every day. So at least now I have a place to go.
Well, that does it for this edition of The Bottom Line. For County Cable Montgomery, I'm Susan Kenedy.